Hey guys, today we are talking about function rules. Okay, so let's take a look at a sequence of numbers. If we're looking for the relationship between these, we know that we are adding 7 every single time. That would be the rule, to add 7. So an expression that describes the relationship between each input and output is a rule if it's a function rule. Okay, so in this case, the input would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the outputs would be as follows. So if we look at this one, the input would be 0, the output would also be 0. So in order to figure out the rule, we have to ask ourselves, how do I get from 1, what do I do to 1 to get to 7? What do I do to 2 to get to 14, 3 to 21, and so on and so forth? And this rule has to work for every one of them. So my answer would be 7 times 1, 7 times 2, 7 times 3, and so on and so forth. So my rule would be 7x. Okay, so if you know the rule, then you just plug in the input. For example, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 9 is 12. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 9 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 9 is 18. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 9 is 21. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 9 gives us 24. Okay, so if we go back to 0, 0 times 3 is 0, plus 9 is 9. That's where we get the plus 9 from, because at 0, we're adding 9 to the number. And then we look at the next one. What is happening in between each of these? They're going up by 3. That 3 is a repeated addition of 3, so that's where the multiplication of 3 comes in. So you find your 0 term, which would be 9, and that gets added on to the total. And every time we're adding 3, so that's the multiplication of 3. So we get the 3 from this repeated addition, because that's the same thing as multiplication, and then the adding of the 9 over here is the adding of the 9 here. Okay, so let's look at this a little bit further. If I have an input of 1 and the output is 4, the input is 2 and the output is 7, and so on and so forth. So let's go back and find 0. If I'm looking at this, every single time it's increasing by 3. Okay, so let's call this plus 3. So if I go back 3 and I'm starting at 0 here, my output is 1. All of my inputs are going up by 1. All of my outputs are going up by 3. So from 1 to 4, that's 3. Okay, so I know then that I'm adding 1. Because the input is 0, the output is 1, that means that every time I have to add 1 on. If it's a repeated addition of 3, that's a multiplication of 3. So my rule for this table is 3x plus 1. Let's check. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So we know that it works. So the function rule is 3x plus 1. So every time you need to find your 0 term. That's what we're going to call it. So write that down. This is your 0 term. And in this case, when your input is 0, your output is 1. So you're figuring out when your input is 0, what's your output? That's what gets added on. You find the repeated addition or subtraction over here, and that's what's being multiplied. Let's try this one. Okay, so if we look at this one, I'm going to help you start it. We first need to figure out what happens when it's 1 and 0, because we're starting at 2. So let's look over here. What happens between all of these? From 9 to 13 is plus 4. From 13 to 17 is plus 4. And from 17 to 21, it's plus 4. So if I go back 4, 9 minus 4 is 5. So 1 would equal 5. And then go back 4 again, I'm at 1. So 0 equals 1. So the rule is, to start with, add 1. Because the 0 term is 1. I'm multiplying by 4 because it's a repeated addition of 4. So 4 times x plus 1. So let's check it. 4 times 2 gives me 8, plus 1 is 9. 4 times 3 gives me 12, plus 1 is 13. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. And 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21. So 4x plus 1. Okay, so if you have slides, this one might not be on there. So I want you to copy this down and try this on your own. You can do this on the side or on the back of a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. But I need to see this in class. Okay, if your input is 1, your output is 3, your input is 2, your output is 4, so on and so forth. You're trying to find the rule. Here's a hint. Figure out what 0 is by moving whatever this direction is backwards. Okay, I'll be back in just a second to show you what I did. Okay, so over here, it's a repeated addition of 1. So if I go back 1, I'm at 2. So 0 equals 2. So I'm taking 1 times x, and then I'm adding on, because that's the repeated addition, and then I'm adding on 2 because that's my 0 term. And 1 times 3 is 3 plus 2. Just kidding. 1 times 1 is 1 plus 2 is 3. I got it. My answer I put in there. Just kidding. Okay, 1 times 2, which we know all of these are going to be itself. So we really don't even need this one. We just need x. So 2 plus 2 is 4. 3 plus 2 is 5. And 4 plus 2 is 6. So our function rule is x plus 2. And that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you next time.